Welcome to The Block. I'm Emily Proud. Blake Brockermeyer and Carl Reed are waiting in the wings, but we got to start here. The football world has been talking about October 8th since May. We all wanted to see how the coach we build up to be the czar of football and who thinks he's God share the field with a coach who gave him those labels. The feud between Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban lived up to the hype in terms of a close game that came down to the wire. But no more microphone fireworks this time. There was so much to dissect from this game. We got no Bryce Young, 4 turnovers, and 2 missed field goals for the Tide, but nobody's talking about that. It's the joy of football. 2 teams can play 59 minutes and 57 seconds. But all we want to talk about is what happened in the final 3 ticks. So here's the scene. Aggies down 4, need a touchdown here. 1st and goal from the 2. Haynes King looks to Evan Stewart. Play fails. Game over. That prompted Johnny Football to tweet this, quote, "One of the worst calls I've ever seen in my life. You have one play to beat the #1 team in the country, and that's what we run?" Now, clearly, guys, this is an emotional and hyperbolic response from a notable Aggie alum. But Blake, do you agree with his sentiment that it was the wrong play call there?
Well, I mean, it really wasn't a bad play call. It just wasn't executed correctly. Evan Stewart's got to get into the end zone and give the quarterback a little bit of room to throw the football. I mean, I think if Evan Stewart had more experience, then it would have been probably a better option for them. But he's a freshman. He's never been on this stage before. This is a different moment than it is in high school football. So you got to get a few yards into the end zone, preferably 3 or 4, and then the ball's got to be out on time where you have a chance. I mean, the ball was thrown in front of the pylon, so that there was really no chance for the play to actually happen. So he's got to get deeper. The quarterback's got to throw it earlier. If it had been me, I would have let Devon Achane get to the field, maybe get him on some sort of a stretch play or a swing screen where he's one-on-one, where he's got receivers blocking for him. But I just think that it's more of an execution problem than a play call.
Carl, if Evan Stewart doesn't have the experience in a big game like this, should you design a play that targets him?
Well, I think that you design a play based on what you think gives you the shot to win. When I think about what Johnny Football said, it would be easy to do a lot of different things if Johnny Manziel was actually playing quarterback for Texas A&M Saturday, but he was not. I think that when you're talking about the game that Evan Stewart had, I don't have a problem with him throwing to him. I think it was poor execution, but I think a lot of people were looking for him to maybe do something run pass option-wise, giving the quarterback a dual read. But at the end of the day, they're going to question you when you lose. That's the belly of the beast. That's the nature of this business. If he wins this game, it's like, oh, my God, I beat Nick again, and Texas A&M here's a real contender. Now it goes down to another head-scratching loss, and the questions will come again, and the noise will get louder. Does Jimbo Fisher need an offensive coordinator that can call plays in situations like that? It's winning and losing. It's a game of inches, and it's a very thin line between a win and a loss.
Yeah, Carl, you said it. That play, among a lot of other things that happened during the game, was really the difference between winning and losing. But what implications did it have kind of big picture when it comes to Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M, who are kind of in a rocky relationship right now?
You're in a rocky relationship, but it's nothing that you can do with a $95 million buyout. So you got to try to find a way to make it work. And so I think that question comes again. Does Jimbo need an offensive coordinator? But if he does, who makes that decision? Do you make him do that? If you're the Texas A&M administrators, do you make him do that? Does he make that decision for himself? Who's going to be the person that ultimately makes that decision? That is unknown at this point.
Yeah, Blake, you said it last week that it's a necessity. They got to get an offensive coordinator, new vision in there, something that's not going to be solved necessarily this season. But based on what you saw Saturday, was that vision and what you believed solidified?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Jimbo Fisher wears a lot of hats as a head coach, like every head coach does. Mm-hmm. And you need to be able to hire someone that you trust that can run a system that kids are going to want to play in. They want to score points. They want to be in the limelight. They want to have a chance to succeed. put them in a position for success. Their offense right now is not doing that unless you're a running back. And so they've got to kind of start over offensively. Their defense is fine. They're young. They have a lot of talent on their roster. They're going to have to keep it after the season, depending on how the rest of this season goes. But they need a new vision, in my opinion. Jimbo Fisher, will hear that from the athletic director. He does have a lot of power with the money that he makes. But I think if he's a realist and he's a person that looks himself in the mirror, then I think he'll realize that needs to be done.
All right, so we need to tell Johnny Football to just take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Well, guys, it's a weekly tradition like none other. We got the good, the bad, and the ugly. And another thing that we really love here on this show is having fun. And last week, our friend Carl tried to take that away from me when he locked up LSU over Tennessee. So, Carl, I think it's safe to say you learned your lesson here, right?
This was a tough pill to swallow, for sure. And not just because I was wrong on television, also because you beat me up about it all weekend and you won't let it go. And I got a bunch of friends from college that are Tennessee Vol fans, and they have let me have it. I want to get some people arrested for cyberbullying, the way that I've been treated for Tennessee going down there and beating LSU and me picking against them.
That bad? I felt like I was pretty subtle. I could have been way worse.
Some of my college teammates weren't as subtle.
Okay. So it's not me. You don't have me arrested. There's some other people. Okay. Well, I'm trying to be calm now, looking ahead to Alabama. And as much as I would love to take my victory lap and soak up this moment a bit more, I'm going to have that mindset of a coach, which is just on to the next one, right? The next one, well, it's the third Saturday in October. The Vols' yearly cross-division rivalry game has slightly leaned in favor of the Tide as they've won 15 straight by an average margin of 25 points. But in year one, under Josh Heupel, Tennessee scored its most points in that rivalry since a 5-overtime game back in 2003. However, they still lost the game by 4 touchdowns, so not really close. Carl, does Tennessee have enough in all 3 phases to beat Alabama this season?
Well, a large part about that depends on whether Bryce Young plays or not. But this is a situation for Tennessee and Josh Heupel to show that they've really arrived. These are the kind of games that can make you a legend. It shows whether you're just a pretty good coach or whether you become legendary. Phil Fulmer had to get over the hump against Steve Spurrier's Florida Gators back in the day, and he did that with T. Martin on their way to a national championship. So this is a game for Tennessee to show that they're the real deal. Now, we've heard this before. We've heard Alabama's vulnerable. Alabama, the run is over. We've heard this several times over the last decade in several situations, and the Crimson Tide, the majority of the time, has come out on top. So we'll see if Tennessee is the real deal or if they're fool's gold.
Yeah, Blake, 15-0. I mean, it's been a long time since Tennessee has gotten over that Alabama hump. From a player perspective, how tough is it, mindset-wise, to get that monkey off your back?
I mean, I don't think that the players are going into the week thinking that, oh, man, we're playing Alabama like we're going to lose. I think every team is different. Tennessee's got a very good football team this year. They have an elite quarterback who's in the Heisman Trophy contention right now. Their offense is clicking on all cylinders. It's the defense that needs to step up this week. They rank 87th in total defense this week. That could be the Achilles heel for this team this year. So I think offensively they'll be pretty good. Bama's defense, on the other hand, is one of the best in the country. So it's going to be a great match back and forth. Tennessee's got a huge advantage at home. They'll have a great crowd there, no doubt. And Alabama has struggled on the road. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They haven't played as well on the road, so they're going to have to really get it together this week. And Bryce Young, of course, has got to play for them to have a chance to win this game.
Just hoping for a competitive matchup for the first time in a very long time. Let's head west for another good. Is LA a football town? Since the LA Rams won the Super Bowl, UCLA and USC are both undefeated. And the last time that happened for each team was nearly 2 decades ago. So Blake, let's start with the Bruins. Both Chip Kelly and Dorian Thompson-Robinson have been in LA for 5 years. You rarely see that in college football, especially nowadays. So is this kind of the perfect example example of how building a program can take time.
Yeah, it's definitely taken them some time, and what they've done is they've really gone into the transfer portal and built their roster up with guys that have left. They've got 18 guys in the transfer portal. They were ranked number 8 in the 24/7 Sports transfer portal rankings. They've got great fits for their schemes, guys that are maybe a little bit under the radar that people don't know about nationally, that really fit into what they're doing. They've made a big difference in their roster and their team, and they are really killing it on offense this year. DTR is really taking his game to another level, which is crazy to think about when you go back in time a few months ago, and Dylan Gabriel was a guy that they were trying to bring in to beat him out for his job potentially. So things can change quickly. Chip Kelly's an offensive guru, but their defense is ranked 40th nationally. Their offense is ranked number 6 nationally. So they're clicking on both sides of the ball, and it's been impressive to watch.
Yeah, that's a crazy stat about the transfer portal, because usually when you think about all the improvement made with the transfer portal, you think about the other school, USC. Obviously, bringing in Lincoln Riley, it was expected to be a little bit of a bump there, but have the Trojans exceeded your expectations thus far?
You know, I knew they'd be pretty good. I mean, Caleb Williams is likely going to be the first or second pick in the draft in 2 years. So you bring him in with a year of experience from Oklahoma. You bring in Lincoln Riley, who's done an incredible job developing quarterbacks over the years at Oklahoma. And then they have 30 transfers on their roster on top of that, and some big names. Their guys, they were ranked number 1 in the 24/7 Sports transfer portal rankings. They have big-time guys on their team, guys that are nationally known, that have made huge impacts, like Jordan Addison and Mario Williams are two of a bunch that they have. And, you know, their offense is ranked 25th in the country right now. Their defense has stepped up this year. They've done a little bit better than I thought they would do. They're ranked 47th nationally. So they're doing well. I mean, it's still a few weeks away, but there's potential for that game to have a huge impact when they play each other at the end of the season.
Yeah, and Carl, I'll ask you this. The fun part about the Pac-12 this year is divisions are gone, so we can talk about all of these teams as having a chance to win the Pac-12. But when it comes to these two squads, obviously when they face off, huge implications there, but who do you like more to win the Pac-12 this year out of the two LA schools?
Well, it's crazy out there. Tony already told you it doesn't rain in Southern California. These two teams have been making it rain on everybody that they've been playing. I think right now, I still would favor USC, because we could kind of expect this. Once Lincoln came and Caleb Williams came with them, and then they added Jordan Addison, this is not a surprise for people that USC is in this position. Who we get surprised about is Chip Kelly being undefeated at UCLA. Chip has been a guy that's forgotten about. It seems like forever ago when he was running the program at the University of Oregon and had them as the hottest thing in the country. All the California recruits were going to Oregon. He was the big man on campus. Left and went to the Philadelphia Eagles, came back to college at UCLA, and it hasn't went as spectacular as everyone was hoping. But he has his football team here undefeated, and now we're talking about Chip Kelly again. This is a resurgent career for him. He has really dug down and got his guys ready to play. I still put USC ahead of him, though. But this has been a great coaching job by Chip Kelly, who's reminding everybody, hey, I'm over here, and I'm kind of a big deal, too.
Blake, I'm not letting you off easy. Who do you like, UCLA or USC?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I think it'll depend on the health of both teams at the end of the season, but I would say right now I would take UCLA. They've got a quality road win at Utah, which is a very difficult place to play. I like the way their defense is playing. They're very opportunistic. DTR is playing at a just as high level as Caleb Williams is right now. So if I had to pick today, it would be UCLA, but I think it's too early to really tell.
Okay. November 19th. Circle your calendars. And this game is at UCLA, which I know is a major home field advantage. So we'll see how that one plays out.
How about
All
that?
right. Yeah, not so much. Speaking of, our first bad this week is actually our bad. There's a lot that these two get right, but hey, nobody's perfect, and I've already given Blake the chance to tone down his stance on being out on Clemson with DJU at quarterback. Carl, you have the floor.
We were hard on Clemson earlier this summer, especially even more so than Clemson. We were very hard on DJU and saying that Cade Klubnik needed to be the guy. And Dabo kept saying that people are disrespecting DJU, and every week we get on here and say, yeah, they can win if they pay Cade Klubnik. Now Clemson is undefeated. DJU is playing great football. Clemson defense is dominating like we thought that they would, and Clemson is in the driver's seat right now in the ACC for them to get a playoff berth and be a possible national championship contender. We got to give Clemson some flowers today because they have been balling. Everybody was talking about NC State was special this year, and they completely took them apart. Clemson is showing you that they're the real big dog in the ACC.
Carl, you were too nice. Everybody's talking about NC State. Come on. We know who you're talking about. Blake, you loved you some NC State. Now what? What are you saying now?
I wasn't going to throw my guy. I wasn't going to throw your head all the way under the bus.
I'll do it.
It's still early. It's still early. NC State's still alive, so we'll see how it goes. I've been impressed with Clemson as well. I just look at their team. I look at their body of work. I look at the conference they play in. I know this is the same every year what everyone says about Clemson, and I think they're a good team. I just don't think they're a national championship caliber team. I think if they were in the SEC, they'd be probably third or fourth best team in the SEC. So we'll see how it goes the rest of the year. Their schedule's not anything to write home about. They have some tough games coming up in the next few weeks, but they have looked a lot better than I thought. DJU is balling at a way higher level than he has, especially last year. And so hopefully they continue to keep getting better. And I look forward to them making the playoffs and playing against some competition, maybe at a little higher level.
Blake. Third or fourth best team in the SEC. Name me 3 SEC teams right now better than Clemson.
Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama.
Tennessee. Yeah. Tennessee's better than Clemson?
Yep.
Hey, let's talk after Saturday.
Right,
oh my gosh. You too. We have so many more things that we need to talk about. We could do an entire show about were we right about Clemson, were we wrong about Clemson. It's just week 6, so we've got some time to see what this Clemson team is made of. Let's stick in the ACC, though. It's safe to say there's some sort of disconnect between Mario Cristobal, Tyler Van Dyke, and their offensive coordinator, Josh Gaddis. So, Blake, from your vantage point, what's not clicking there?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, first of all, what a fool I am to pick Miami to blow out UNC last week. I figured after a bye week, they'd get things right after getting humiliated by Middle Tennessee the week before, but I was way wrong on that. And Miami has got a lot of work to do. Like you said, there's some disconnect somewhere between Gaddis, Tyler Van Dyke, in my opinion, is first-round potential quarterback. Last year under Rhett Lashley, he thrived in a kind of a small sample size, but he went off when he was playing under Coach Lashley last year. So something's off. Mario Cristobal is known as a serial micromanager. Maybe I don't know if that's the case here, but something's not working offensively. Tyler Van Dyke's. Will be interesting to see what he does after the season, whether he sticks around to Miami or leaves. He needs to go. He needs to play another year now. I think he's this season's hurt his draft stock, but they're just not clicking this year, and he needs more weapons around him. Miami last year had more weapons, especially at wide receiver. Their top receiver, Xavier Rispetto, I can't even say his name. He's been out since week 2. That's a big blow for them offensively. So hopefully they can get back and they can get the ball rolling again.
Carl, what does Miami need to do to ensure that Tyler Van Dyke sticks around another year?
Well, maybe they don't need him to stick around. They have to decide is their future with him or not. Sometimes when a new coach takes over a program, he puts his first roster and his first staff together. It's kind of like dating. You look at each other from across the room, you make eye contact, you think each other are attractive, and then you get together and realize that it's not the fit that you thought it was. Whether it's the offensive system, whether it's the philosophy, whether it's the player not being as talented as you think that he is, but right now it's not working. Maybe it's because they don't have good enough receivers. But right now, I would imagine that they have something to fix there because the University of Miami brought Coach Cristobal in with national championship aspirations. Now, I will say this. I've said this a ton this year about a ton of coaches. Guys, it's year one. You got to slow down and you got to keep expectations accurate and under control. He didn't take over Ed Reed and Warren Sapp Miami Hurricanes. He took over a program that has been abysmal for over a decade now. It's going to take time. It's going to take some adjustments and figuring some things out. But the Canes are a long way away from being back.
Yeah, I agree with Carl. It's too early to judge right now. Miami's going to kill it in the talent acquisition world with the NIL and the recruiting area around South Florida. They're going to be fine as far as that goes. Hopefully they can get see more development. They're going to need to upgrade their roster. I think they will. They've been recruiting at a high level. So I think this could take, I'd give it another year or so, see how it's going. But I think Mario Cristobal will get this thing rolling eventually.
All right, guys. Our first ugly involves a feud that we didn't know we needed in the SWAC. Following a 26-12 win for Jackson State at Alabama State, Eddie Robinson Jr. and Deion Sanders turned a post-game handshake into a post-game hand shove. You're looking at two views of this, so it's kind of hard to tell, there's a second one, who instigated it, but clearly neither are too fond of each other. But then these two took to the microphone to, I guess you could say, explain what the issue was. Take it away, coaches.
A lot of disrespect the whole week. And so you're not going to be disrespectful the whole week in the media. We didn't talk in the pregame. I was out there the whole time at the 50-yard line. He walked through our whole our whole huddle on our end zone and came a long way around to get to his side of the field in the pregame. Thought that wasn't classy at all. And so in the postgame, I'm not about to give you the Obama bro hug. I'm going to shake your hand and I'm going to go on. I'm going to always be respectful and respect the game. You got the great guys, W.C. Gordons, Eddie G. Robinsons, those guys, Reno Chasm. I'm living on the shoulders of the SWAC. He ain't SWAC. I'm SWAC. He ain't SWAC.
One of the comments that kind of disturbed me out of all the comments, that I'm not SWAC. Who is? I got time today. Who is SWAC? If I ain't SWAC, who is SWAC? If I ain't SWAC, who is SWAC? If I ain't SWAC, who is SWAC? Baby, who is?
Carl, who is SWAC?
Well, I think number one, you have to look at it from this perspective. Winning hurts people's feelings. Mm-hmm. And when you're beating people and they don't feel like they have a competitive opportunity against you, it's going to always cause some dissent. Now, in terms of who started it or who did what they say, when Deion walked across the field, he didn't want to shake his hand. When I hear Coach Robinson say that Deion is a SWAC, I actually look into it at a deeper issue. What I gather is Deion has another escape. Deion has somewhere else to go. Eddie Robinson was a great player himself at Alabama State. He had an 11-year NFL career, and he's back coaching in what he feels like is his conference, the SWAC. He feels like Deion Sanders is a visitor that always is going to have better opportunities. But he doesn't have to deal with a lot of the problems that SWAC schools have to deal with in terms of funding, in terms of lack of exposure, in terms of lack of facilities, lack of assistant coaches. And so there becomes a jealousy at times when those kind of things are bought into play. Deion has the resources and Deion has the connections to overcome a lot of the issues that a lot of coaches overcome. I think this is also a deeper issue. This is what happens also when a lot of the African American coaches don't feel like there's opportunities for them to go other places and coach at other universities, but Deion has those opportunities. Willie Simmons, for example, is the coach at FAMU, and he played at Clemson, but he doesn't get opportunities to be a coordinator at a Power 5 or to get a Sun Belt job or a MAC job. And so sometimes when you look at or you read some of the comments or you listen to some of the comments that a guy like Eddie Robinson makes, sometimes there is a little bit of jealousy there, or even a better word of resentment for what Deion is able to do at Jackson State from a recruiting standpoint, from a fundraising standpoint, and from some of the resources that he has. Deion Sanders has definitely helped the SWAC. We wouldn't be talking about the SWAC on this show, on any show in the nation, if Deion Sanders was not the coach at Jackson State. And that has to be respected. And it's a competitive game. What some of these guys could do in the league is, Eddie Robinson alluded to it with saying he hopes he stays and wants to play next year. You got to beat them. If you don't like somebody and it bothers you what's going on, you got to line up in a football game. You got to be able to beat those guys when you play them. And it's not Deion's responsibility to check the scoreboard and not throw the ball at the end of the game. But that's kind of what that issue is from my standpoint.
I mean, we have fun with it, and we love the feuds and the back and forth, and we enjoy it here in the media. But Carl, ultimately, when you have kind of a public feud of these two going back and forth, you're saying that it's something a little bit deeper there. What would your message be if you're able to talk to these two coaches? Maybe calm them down or just kind of have them realize that there's a bigger thing going on here.
Beef is bad for business, and it always has been. And so what I think that in situations like this, what I didn't like is I didn't like the Alabama State players using profanity at a head coach. I don't think that there's any place in the game for that. But I always believe that if you have issues with each other, then you call each other and you iron them out, and you don't fight back and forth through the media, through social media, or through anything like that. But I'm sure that this will be an exciting game coming from in the future. But I do understand the resentment that some people have towards Prime. It's been like that since he got in the league. But you got to remember, too, when Alabama State beat Jackson State in the spring COVID year, they put Deion's picture on the scoreboard. Now, everybody from Alabama State is going to say, well, Eddie Robinson wasn't the coach then. But I also guarantee you that the coach doesn't operate the Jumbotron, right? So when you do that, you also motivated Deion to be back in that stadium at that moment, wanting to beat you, because you did beat him and put his picture with a Jerry curl on your Jumbotron. He was definitely going to come in there and want some get back for that.
Love that image. Thank you so much for that discussion. We're going to switch gears completely. The only thing that I would say is more questionable than the fried butter that they were serving outside the Cotton Bowl this weekend is what happened inside the Cotton Bowl. A 49-0 beatdown in the Red River Showdown. Now, last week, I asked you guys if fans should maybe be a little bit more patient with Brent Venables. We've talked about the year one coaches already on this show, but especially considering all the talent that Oklahoma lost when Lincoln Riley left. And the consensus with you guys was, yeah, let's chill for a little bit. But a defensive guru, the Sooners have now given up 40-plus points in 3 straight losses. 145 points in that span. That's a lot of points. So, Blake, have you revised your stance at all about patience when it comes to Venables?
Yeah, I think Oklahoma fans need to give him a little bit of time, similar to Mario Cristobal at Miami. They got crushed by the transfer portal. Lincoln Riley took a franchise quarterback, potential first pick in the draft, and Caleb Williams with him to Oklahoma. And so when he leaves, other guys leave. Mario Williams left. I mean, they had a ton of guys leave. So I think that it obviously hurt them. They were able to fill those holes in the portal, but with less talented players. And then Dylan Gabriel they brought in to kind of be the guy there, and he just hasn't delivered. He hasn't looked as good. His accuracy's been off. And then they didn't have a guy behind him. I mean, we talked about that earlier this spring that Oklahoma didn't have a backup quarterback. So that proved its case this last Saturday in Dallas. Oklahoma's basically ran the Wildcat to get any yards. And what's funny to me is they had success running it early in the game, and then they just stopped. Texas hadn't stopped them yet, and then they just stopped running it. So that was bad coaching in my opinion. But defense has been bad. Being humiliated by Texas 49-0 is as bad as it gets if you're an Oklahoma fan. So they'll get it going. They're not going to stand for that. Can they keep the team, the morale high the rest of the season? Their season is essentially over as far as the Big 12 goes. So that's what to look for now is Venables is known as a culture guy. Can he keep this team together for the rest of the season to compete at a high level, or will they mail it in and get ready for next year? That's what I've got my eyes on. But Oklahoma will be fine, and I expect them in the portal to really go out and make a splash after this season.
Yeah, it's one thing to lose a game, but especially in a rivalry game, because those are the types of games that Venables will be judged on, not necessarily to win them, but to make it competitive and to show strides to look towards the future. So, Carl, when you look at this game in particular, a 49-0 beatdown in a rivalry game, should that worry Oklahoma fans about the future, or is this kind of just an anomaly and we're gonna sweep this one under the rug and try it again next year?
No, because Oklahoma just doesn't have a very good football team right now. Brent Venables is known as a defensive guru, like you said earlier in the segment. But I will tell you this, there's no such thing as gurus. What there is guys who can coach talent. And Brent Venables, for 2 decades, has been one of the most relentless recruiters in the country. And he has coached a litany of big-time draft prospects who went on to play in the National Football League. That defense that's playing so well for Clemson was a Brent Venables defense, and he recruited all those guys. He's going to hit the recruiting trail 120 miles an hour. He's going to get into the transfer portal, and he has to flip this roster from a talent standpoint. They lost a bunch of kids in the transfer portal when Lincoln left, but they also lost some guys like Nick Benito, key guys who are now playing in the National Football League. The talent level is nowhere near the same. It's going to take some recruiting to get it done. It's year one, way too early to panic. Let's get out of control. Let's get everything under control. And Brent Venables is going to turn that roster around, and Oklahoma is going to be just fine.
He needs to take Sark's blueprint of what he did after year one. I mean, Sark flipped that roster over. Over 30% of the roster is new at Texas. They've definitely upgraded it at a lot of positions. Got some young talent as well. So I think Oklahoma will take the same playbook like Sark did last year at Texas, and you can go from being a bad football team to a pretty good football team in a year if you hit the right guys.
I don't know how Oklahoma fans would feel about you comparing them to Texas, but that's all right. They definitely need to take a step up and to make some improvements. So year one, again, I think that's the gist of what we're talking about here. Year one, a little bit of patience. Well, let's end things on a high note with some weekly awards. Carl, your Run the Rock Player of the Week is...
There is nothing in the world better than a flex bone option fullback. I think any guy that plays fullback in the flex bone should automatically go to heaven. We have Navy's Dabo Fofana, 21 carries, 159 yards, 3 touchdowns, running the rock all over Tulsa. Now, you high school coaches that watch this show, you look at this flex bone run to perfection. You don't have a great quarterback, and most of you don't. You turn around and you hand the ball to the fullback and you run this option and you watch it work for you. There is nothing like it in the world. Like I said, all fullbacks get into heaven. Tell them that Coach Reed sent you when you get up there and you meet Jesus. All right? This is my Run the Rock Award, winner of the week. Unbelievable execution of the flex bone this week. Very exciting to watch.
It's one thing to have fullback love, which we don't get a whole lot of, but dang, I mean, it's just waiting at heaven's gates saying, yeah, I'm here because I'm a fullback. So I love
Tell him
it.
Coach Reed sent you.
Coach Reed sent you. I love it. All right, Blake, it's a tough one to follow, but as we all know, in front of every successful running back performance or fullback is the big men that are blocking him. So who is this week's big ugly?
Well, the big uglies go to Pittsburgh Panthers offensive linemen Jake Cradell, Marcus Minor, Gabe Hoy, Blake Zabovich, Matt Goncalves, and Branson Taylor. Pittsburgh plays 6 offensive linemen. Those guys paved the way for Izzy Abanaconda to rush for 326 yards on 43 carries on Saturday. They allowed 1 sack, so hats off to those guys for paving the way. That's an impressive performance for anyone, and Pittsburgh's got some guys that really opened up some great holes, and hats off to those guys for doing their jobs.
Where else can you get a guy that names 6 O-linemen and the other guy names a fullback? What other type of show can you get that type of action on?
I'm telling you, and I've got in my ear here, Kenny wants me to mention a Marcus Minor, who is a DeMatha grad. Also, shout out to him, too. I mean, we're just throwing shout outs at the very end of the show. People that are still watching got to be really excited. But yeah, with Abanaconda, what did he break? Tony Dorsett's single game rushing record. Anytime that your name is mentioned along him, it's probably a pretty good performance. And we saw a lot of them on Saturday, and more of them today on Monday. Guys, thank you so much, as always, for the great discussion. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the 24/7 Sports YouTube page. We'll see you back here Wednesday for picks.